Welcome to Longevity Plus, a nutritional supplement company based in Payson, Arizona, where he is responsible for designing effective, natural, non-toxic alternative supplements for the treatment of every disease known to man. Dr. Gordon will do a short question and answer segment after the webinar. Please type your question into the question field located on your control panel. Also, be sure to stay tuned to hear our product specials once the presentation has completed. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Gary Gordon.
Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. I can't seem to get off the topic of heavy metals. It seems to be what changed my life, and so I've got to share this message with you. One more session. Next week, we will not be able to do a webinar. It'll be 2 weeks before we do our next one, and that will be on hormones, which are a huge problem today because most of you don't know that men are going to need testosterone if they get a lot older, and we're going to have to do something to give women safely the benefits of estrogen. But sticking with today, we know that we've covered already the food and the infections and the genetics lightly, and we've done one on heavy metals. Today is a repeat, but there's always much more information. So to make sure that we all understand why I'm doing this topic, we have products at Longevity Plus that are extremely helpful because we do know, for example, that we are all today loaded with lead, and this is science of the total environment. And it is explaining to you that the skeleton, the bone level, the bottom where it says the value is 1/1000th. What we're telling you is you have 1,000 times more lead in every bone of everyone on planet Earth today than we had a simple 400 years ago. So this is really, until now, we didn't have the data to not only prove that you were born with low-level lead poisoning, and that lead will make other things like mercury more toxic, and we'll get into that. But it's really important to understand that we are also concerned today because we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been told that fluorinating water was a good trick. We didn't need it. But the reason I have this article up is to empower you, the patient and the doctor who are listening, to understand that we have data in this slide. I used to be the director of the largest laboratory in the world with offices in Tokyo, Amsterdam, Boston, and San Francisco, where we measured the level of lead, mercury, cadmium, and 38 other metals in urine, blood, and hair. Most people have been told that hair doesn't count. This article proves that the level in your hair is useful when you see it in the hair, although there are some people like autistic children who don't show the mercury that's accumulating in their body for complex reasons, and the hair looks normal, but the child is still poisoned. But when you see heavy metals, and the test is under $100 to measure everybody on the hair, and you will find from this article that it warns you how much toxin you have, because obviously you could listen to my lecture today and you could go home and do nothing, because bottom line, all of us respond better when we know that we have a proven test that shows we have the problem. So we'll get into that. So this slide is again trying to tell you that the Department of Preventive Medicine at the New Jersey Medical School is telling you that you're 1,000 times greater in your body when we look at bones than you were a few hundred years ago. And so this is really important to understand because many people today do not feel well, and whether you're being given an antidepressant or you're just tired or you keep getting infections or you have cancer, it's hard for you to get this example fully understood. Taking the lead out of you isn't going to overnight make you totally young, but it will always do good things because we have this proof that, again, all of us have too much lead. But this slide kind of is the crux of the matter. It says 1 to 13 years. Now, why would I have a number that's confusing? I'm talking about bone lead into the blood, and I'm talking about 1 year or 13 years. The difference is this. You come to any of my doctor friends, thousands of them who chelate people around the world today, and you take a bunch of chelation intravenously, you do it orally, you bathe in it, you take the gum that we have, Easy Defense, you start doing some EDTA. You are going to start getting rid of some of the lead and mercury, but the lead comes first. But it's confusing to you when I tell you that this is a lifetime problem, because these two numbers are what confuses even your doctor. He doesn't understand that the bone takes 13 years. The blood takes 1 year. So yes, you feel much better, because when I treat you for a year aggressively with any method, just BCI alone, you're going to feel better. But the point is, with zeolite, it gets better, because where we're stuck is that the bone can't give up the lead no matter if you took an intravenous chelation every day for a year, had 300 of them. That would be ridiculous to do that, but it can't suck it out of the bone. The bone has to gradually remodel. So whatever I'm teaching you today, if you're one of the lucky people who sees some of the dramatic changes that have occurred in so many of my patients, as we do what my mother always told me, she said, get the lead out. If you actually do that, and here's the problem, this little test, if we could have this device in every hospital, but it's only available now at places like Harvard Medical School and the Center for Disease Control. This allows us, without taking a piece of your bone, to tell you how much lead is in your bone. And because none of you get this test, all of you are going on blind faith. If you believe me and you go on the programs that I advocate, because you're going to have very intelligent, well-meaning doctors who tell you, look, Mr. Smith, lead's not your wife's problem. It's not your kid's problem. I've measured it. It's the same as every other kid I test, and they are confused. They do not understand the compartmentalization problem, or the fact that lead makes mercury 100 times toxic. So we have to go on. This is the article that's published in the Journal of the AMA already 6 years ago from Harvard Medical School, and this article proves that what's in your bone is going to your eye, and it's causing you to get a cataract, and it's also going to be in your other tissues. So let's talk about your other tissues. Everybody should learn from me today that when we chelate you enough, most people won't wind up needing dialysis. When I really treat you consistently for 15 years, I'll be protecting your teeth. Because women, when they go through the change of life, their bones start to melt. And we all know about osteoporosis. But no one has told you until today that when the bones are melting, the lead is being released, and it's going into your eye and your kidney and your heart and your brain, and you're depressed, and your arteries, and giving you hypertension. But what's interesting is this article. The more lead in your bone, the sooner you die of a heart attack. Now, this is information that is crucial, because the cardiologist is going to ignore this. They don't even want to hear it. But it came from Harvard School of Public Health, so they are not telling you the truth. When every place that's going to operate on your loved one today, and they lie and say there's nothing we can do, we have to do bypass surgery, that is not the truth. Because bottom line, we can start taking the lead out and treat the infection and get off the foods you're allergic to, and you can take all of the supplements that I've written out extensively, and we don't see patients dying of heart attacks, but they always threaten. They say you're a heart attack waiting to happen. They're not telling you the truth. Why do I make such a big deal out of it? Because I've written articles that you can get from Longevity Plus that will help you have the references to shove these in the face of a doctor who tells you you're wasting your time and money to do anything but bypass or stenting. They're not giving the whole picture. So this is, of course, September 2009, so you could forgive them if they're unfamiliar with these data. And nobody has bothered to put all this together, but now you have it in your hand, and this can be played again time after time. So if your doctor really wants to help you, remember, doctors are human, and even if he wants to sell you his bypass, he may have a wife at home that's got heart disease, and he may listen. So just because somebody is busily doing heart bypasses and stents, some of them want to learn. So what we're saying here is that the level in people about lead, bone lead, is a proof that this is your lifetime accumulation. So let's say that you were a welder for 15 years, but for the last 10 years you've been a librarian. So they sit there and say, oh, you look fine. We could even do a provoked specimen and not get the lead out, but nonetheless, that lead is there. And remember, some people are unfortunate enough to have an auto accident, break a bone. Now you're laying around the house unable to exercise. When you are not moving against gravity like people in space, what happens? Bones melt. Why do people die in hospitals so fast? Because they're not able to get up and walk to the cafeteria. They're stuck in that stupid bed. And when they're in the bed, their bones start to melt because they're not active. And without activity, which is why exercise is so key to my whole program, without activity, the bones are melting. When they're melting, the lead, it's in your bone because you were born with poisoned bones, is going into your heart and your kidney and your brain, and you get depressed and your immune system won't work, and all of a sudden the infections that we all carry start to get us. Now that study was in the New York Times yesterday, that all the people who get sick after riding on the airplane, it is not the bug that you caught from the person next to you. Even if you sat next to that person on that airplane that had the live TB and he ignored people's rights and he got on the airplane in spite of knowing he was communicable, nobody got TB from it, because what happens is it is the immune system that goes down. We don't catch a cold. We kick our immune system the wrong way, which is why everything I do for you is to help you with immune support products, with vitamin C, with knowing how to treat infections and so forth, because we know that we can help, but you need to understand the whole program. So this is telling you that the bone test, if we had this, and it was not likely that's going to happen very soon, because roughly they could cost $300,000 or more to have a bone density device available to you in communities. So you may have to look at the data from all other people and draw your own conclusion, although, as I repeat, if you have toxic metals in your hair, it's a good indicator that you want to be on a program. But we're all human. Buying something to take the lead out of us, whether it's zeolite or fiber or high-dose C or lipoic acid or the beyond chelation or heavy detox, any of the products cost us money. So you'd love to know that, gee, I started here and I've gone to here, so you know you got a bang for the buck. I can teach you that whatever is wrong with you, whether it's your memory not working or your energy not giving you the ability to do your work or the number of infections, I can assure you that it's like a very simple example. If we realize that in America we're famous for rebuilding our 1930, 40, and 50 cars, they're classic cars, and we restore them. Well, you are a classic person, and I can restore you. But as you know, when you restore a car, it's bumper to bumper. It's not just seat covers or a new carburetor or new tires or a new motor and new battery and new wires. It's everything. So when I start you on my pathway to recover your health with my F.I.G.H.T, you might sit there and say, gee, Doc, you know, I used to walk and now I'm in this wheelchair and nobody can tell me why I'm not walking. And you would love to know, is it because you got bit by a recluse spider, or because you've got bad genes, or you had the wrong job and you would love to have a proven one-on-one relationship to explain that tumor in your left breast or that prostate cancer that's going. Things, unfortunately, in us human beings are seldom directly one-to-one. If I take all the lead out of you and all of a sudden you become a top athlete, or all of a sudden you become the smartest person in your school, it is not a simple one-to-one relationship, because chelation is doing many, many things, particularly when you're taking the BCI. Those 9-pill packets are lowering viscosity of blood so that the blood is more like wine and not so much like ketchup. So the amount of blood that I'm getting into your eyeball or into your prostate or your breast is markedly enhanced, because instead of trying to pump thick ketchup or honey through your system, I have helped you in many ways that we'll have to talk about another time. But it's important to understand that whatever you die of, whether it's diabetes or cancer or heart disease or suicide or accidents, every cause of death is tied to how low your lead was. Now that's amazing. What I just said, you'd have less accidents if I got the lead out of you. You'd be less likely to commit suicide if I got the lead. So across the board, I'm trying to make this very clear. Anything that is wrong with you is going to be absolutely tied to this. It's almost as though you have a car and nobody can fix it, and there's really something wrong with it because it's a Toyota, and it's got, you know, you're all fearful about the taking off with the sudden acceleration, but you also have got, obviously, 4 tires that have half the normal amount of air in them. Putting the full amount of air in the tire is going to make things easier to solve, even if it wasn't the exact cause of why you had those headaches or why you got your cancer. It just stands to reason that if you start to restore your body the same way you would restore an old car, and you start with the tires and the paint job and the seat covers, if I start you with the F or the I or the G or the H or the T, everything else will work better. So we're trying to have you get this picture really to understand that, again, this is big news. When the American Heart Association own prestigious journal called Circulation publishes a paper that agrees with what I have been struggling with to educate doctors to this complex thing, because when I started chelating people some 38 years ago, and I had a young lady that had 7 heart attacks already, and she was only like in her late 50s. And they were inoperable and nobody could help her. And she came to me, and by the 7th chelation, I was busy talking to another patient, and this small 100-pound lady came up behind me and picked me up. She had that kind of a response. She had been a cripple, a heart cripple, and chelation, getting the lead out, made a dramatic thing. But no one 38 years ago would believe that lead had anything to do with heart disease. I've given you the whole picture now. Your child is born with low-level lead poisoning. We're going to give you more bad news, but there's a way out. Zeolite and high-dose C and fiber, and eating right and exercise and sweating in saunas and all the things we talk about are the way out of the mess. So if your immune system is down, and I repeat that that's really what happens, we don't catch a cold. We all carry in our body at all times all of these bad things. And this, again, is Harvard Medical School reporting that 66 to 99% of all people carry in their body at all times cytomegalic virus, and we know that it's tied to high cholesterol, but they don't tell you that. Pretend that statins is the answer to everything. Statins are the most oversold, pure hype nonsense that is doing irreparable damage to many people, because cholesterol is a building block, and every day you lose millions and millions of cells that die. And if you're going to make new cells, they have to have a membrane, and the membrane of your cell is made of cholesterol. In addition to that, the hormones that are called steroids, like your estrogen, progesterone, your testosterone, all those have a building block, cholesterol, and they are absolutely attacking a key part of your body. There are people who are absolutely really sick and will have lots of serious side effects because people give them statins. They never talk to you about, gee, I wonder if we could help you lower your body burden of infections using Dr. Gordon's infection program and the silver and the zeolite and a short few days, 3, 4, 5 days of high-dose vitamin A and the other tricks, because infections are part of what keeps the body inflamed, and everybody agrees that inflammation, chronic inflammation, is behind Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and dementia and premature aging and diabetes and cancer and heart disease. So where does this inflammation? Well, it's partly because we eat the wrong foods. And you're going to have to be on omega-3. You can never go. Well, if you don't take your omega-3 that's in the package of the BCI, you're making a serious mistake, because our diet gives us huge levels of omega-6, and omega-6, when it exceeds by a big factor the amount of omega-3. It keeps your body on fire. So the infections then all tied are increasing your blood pressure. And we have all this nonsense of giving you blood pressure pills. Nobody is about to teach you how to keep your arteries soft and flexible, which is why we have a product called Beyond Bone, because Beyond Bone has got vitamin K2 and strontium and some curcumin and other very useful nutrients that can help you do what you must do. You must keep the calcium in your bones, because if you don't, the calcium is going to leave your bones whether you go through some kind of accident or you have change of life or many other reasons. And men are starting to get a lot of osteoporosis. So when the calcium leaves the bone, guess what? A lot of it accumulates in the arteries. So of course when you're 80 years of age, you have 140 times too much calcium. So the arteries are like pipes, and when they're hard, the heart has to work harder, so the blood pressure goes up. So this is why we have some of these problems. It is lead, and it is the cytomegalic, and it's the aging, and it's people not being taught how important vitamin K2 is. You only get a therapeutic level of it if you get the Beyond Bone supplement. But here we look at the problem of lead and memory and dementia, because it's so sad, because who's exposed to lead? Far more people than you have any idea. There's so many jobs today that are exposing us to chemicals like lead, but now they see that as you keep working with these things, your learning ability, your ability to handle your reflexes, which is why you get more accidents, and your memory starts to go down, cognition drops. So all of this, but remember, we're only focusing on lead, but everything I'm saying applies to mercury and to cadmium, and now we have arsenic in the chickens we're eating. So we have these difficulties. Now this is a little bit upsetting. This is actually warning you that 90% of childhood lead poisoning has been linked to hazards in the home of the child, and much of it is because the family comes home and the guy is working around all of this toxins, and it's on his shoes and it's in the carpet. So the child is being poisoned because of where you work. So the toxic metal reports in the workplace will affect genetic expression. So now we're coming down to the mother's total body burden of lead, which is why it's so sad that we can't get, instead of March of Dimes trying to just focus on folic acid, now that they're doing a good job of teaching people birth defects and folic acid, which I'm glad they're doing, but when the real truth is out and you watch this slide about 10 Americans, we're going to have every mother prepare for a pregnancy ideally, and if she can't, we're going to have her on chelation and zeolite and high-dose C and really good nutrition, because her child will be a wastebasket. That's the bottom line. The toxins leave the mom. If she's busy eating fish and having lots of tuna, she's got fillings in her mouth, her child is one of the 600,000 EPA admits is born with mercury poisoning in our country. So it is such a tough thing. The lead exposure is tied to the premature births and the low birth rates, and you know what it's costing. If a child has a low birth weight, prematurity, there's many, many health problems throughout their life. They don't have the full opportunities they could have had, and we've got to get people to understand that bringing a baby into this world does now require you going on a detox program. And when you see what I've taught you, you can do in one period of a year, you can get a lot of the soft tissue toxins out with aggressive use of the things like the BCI and the Bioenergy C, taking at least a teaspoon twice a day, and the organic green, and getting the Beyond Fiber, and taking the maca, and you can do these things and do some sweating and do some exercise. You can help tremendously, but you're going to have to be on something serious. Now remember, we have ACZ as the entry point to taking zeolite. ACZ is the spray. You take one spray twice a day, then you go to one spray 3 times a day, then you work up to 2, then you go to 5, and you go to 10 sprays 4 times a day, and by the time you've gone through 1, 2, or 3 bottles of the spray, you're ready to go to 100 times more powerful, the Zeo Gold, which is then what you will be on. And you open the capsule of Zeo Gold before you consume it, because it works only to its full potential when you open the capsule and put it in water. But we've got to understand what we're doing because it's going to affect your health, your children, and the future generations. We've got to start taking detoxification seriously through our entire life. So low-level lead is one of the reasons that people are winding up on dialysis. But the patient's not told that because all the people that we've written up in the New England Journal of Medicine who were being treated now with intravenous calcium, EDTA, I stress calcium. All in the past I used disodium EDTA, which actually is painful, so it takes 2 to 3 hours to give it to you because it hurts. And now I'm switching everybody to calcium EDTA because it's painless, so you can have your chelation in 5, 6, 7 minutes, and you can follow it with a nutritional IV because when you are not healthy, you don't have optimal levels of magnesium and you don't have optimal levels of B complex. And since I'm convincing everybody, I hope, that your body is operating under a handicap because everybody has too much lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and the other toxins, but I can fight back. And I can't do it from our stupid, sad American diet because the sad American diet is from stupid government policies that subsidize things like corn, and we have Monsanto giving us genetically modified food, both soy and wheat and corn. So we've got to realize we're going to have to go back to Popeye and learn to get spinach and broccoli and cauliflower and kale. We're going to have to break out of the thing, but I can keep people who are looking at winding up on dialysis if they find one of the chelation doctors, and we have acam.org, and we have over 1,200 members who fully can help you. And if you have marginal kidney function, the old days the doctor said, oh, don't go to the chelation doctor. You're going to kill the kidney because that chelation is going to make the kidney work too hard. That was all in totally 180 degrees off the truth. This is from Johns Hopkins trying to warn you that diabetes and kidney disease are all things that can be tied to low-level lead, and now I'm trying to save your teeth. It's expensive to have problems with our teeth, and this is showing you that we can prove that the tooth, when you're on a poisoned planet, which you're living on, the tooth will also have these bad things, arsenic, lead, mercury, etc. And if you have a lot of lead in the tooth, obviously it's not going to have the integrity. So when you are losing bone, so that's why it's so important, if you have a loved one who's going into the menopause, they need to talk to Longevity Plus, and they need to understand that they have the herbal remedy from Thailand, H.R.T. You take that and you take Beyond Bone and you take Beyond Chelation, 3 products, and you will not lose any more bone. And if you stop the bone loss, you will also stop, by the way, with those 3 products, you'll stop all the change of life. You won't have the depression, you won't have the hot flashes, the vaginal dryness, you won't have the inability to sleep, all those problems go away. But more than that, because you're not losing the bone calcium, you're not releasing the lead that winds up giving us weak, unhealthy teeth that break and that have all these problems that we're seeing in unhealthy mouth. And today we know your mouth is killing you. I repeat, your mouth is killing you. What we're saying is that the plaque on your arteries, that they are doing all this ridiculous stenting and bypassing, which does nothing for your whole body. You have plaque on all your, they can stent, what, a couple of inches? Or they can bypass 6, 7 inches. You've got arteries everywhere. We have plaque everywhere. Just learn the truth, because they're wasting precious resources of our country, pushing us dangerously close to bankruptcy with ridiculous $50,000 and $100,000 operations that kill people and don't get at treating the causes. So this article is only warning you that we've known for a long time, that if you have this lead that we all have, that the amount of mercury that it takes to kill you will be 1% of what it used to be, because the lead sets the stage for mercury to kill you, or vice versa. So that's the synergistic problem that no one wants to talk about, and that applies to the PCBs and the dioxins and the other things we'll talk about briefly. Where do we get arsenic? Well, a lot of places. It's now being tied to diabetes. Arsenic is tied to many, many health problems, and it is actually seen in some seafood, but now we find that it's actually been put into the feed of the chicken, so a lot of people are eating a lot of chicken today, not knowing what else. So arsenic is showing up, and it's highly toxic, and it causes cancer, and it's actually background levels of arsenic in our water, so it's one more reason that you want to learn about zeolite, the spray, and then the Zeogold, and the fiber, and the high-dose C, and the oral chelation. It is sad that we have to do this, but I have to teach you how to armorize yourself. I have to protect you from the hostile environment that we find ourselves in. So this is, again, Lancet, and it's trying to explain to you that these industrial chemicals, including methyl mercury, which we mainly get from eating fish, but we also have a mouthful of mercury with the amalgam, and we have these polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, that are in every human being today. So if you don't understand this, you'll go to Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, and you'll watch and understand where the arsenic and the toluene and the biphenyls and how much are you, and whatever's in you as an adult, you can know that the data from Mount Sinai School of Medicine with their $4,900 test that takes 20 tubes of blood shows that your child will be average 6 times higher in these toxins than you are, and these are neurotoxic. So if you can't remember things, or you're starting to really be depressed, or your child is terribly hyperactive or overly aggressive, understand that these are changes that are tied to a defect in neurotransmitter function that can be tied to the fact that lead is making the enzymes in our body not work correctly, so that you don't take the food. When you eat food, a piece of any kind of protein, you're going to get arginine. Arginine is just one of the essential amino acids. It goes into your body, but what you want it to do, it must be used in your body, and technically there are what we call nitric oxide synthases, and they convert it to nitric oxide, which is why you can have warm feet, and why we've restored vision to people who've been blind by using chelation, because the lead, when we took it out, the enzymes, nitric oxide synthases, that convert that essential amino acid into nitric oxide, starts to work again. So the Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, is the one that's really trying to teach you that the umbilical cord is carrying this lead and mercury from the mother, and we prove that by doing some very, very depressing studies, because we find the pesticides and the pollutants in the industrial pollutants. It's just astonishing what's going on. So when you go to Google and you put in the word 10 Americans, it is free of charge, and it is a video that you will see. And all they did is take and spend a lot of money, because this 287 chemicals that they measure cost thousands of dollars, but they found there wasn't a child anywhere in America in any. They didn't just take them all from one hospital. They picked them from across the country. So Environmental Working Group has got all of these things, the home where the toxins come to you, where you get toxins from around the farm, some health tips. This is just a group of people who are trying to give you information, as I'm trying to do, and they're trying to teach you that cell phones are a danger, and they are increasing the likelihood of problems like brain tumors, and that our babies are being born pre-polluted. The law isn't protecting anybody. So, of course, we have ADHD, and what are they going to do? They're going to give you a drug, and you read up about Ritalin, you read it, it says you should never use it for more than a year. And technically in California, the law is being ignored, but it says before you put children on a drug for behavior disorder, they ought to measure the lead. But of course, that would mean they'd have to learn all about where the lead comes from. But you can get that free of charge from the Center for Disease Control on your internet, or from the FDA. There's sites that show you where all these things are coming into your child. But no, everybody's in a hurry. They got 7-minute visits, and so the Ritalin's paid for, and obviously the chelation wouldn't be paid for, so we wind up treating symptoms with drugs that say on them, do not use for more than 1 year, and set the stage for people later to have dependence on drugs. So it's so sad. So we know these chemicals are in every baby born anywhere on earth today, and yet we have the ability. The spark of life is so exciting, and it's so exciting to be around children, but it's not exciting to realize that 1 out of 4 children going to school today either has diabetes or obesity or learning disorder or depression or obsessive compulsive or cancer, and they're on some chemical, they're on a drug for those conditions because nobody is going to bother to treat causes because our government is so much involved with big pharma that they are only going to subsidize your treatment for the phony treatment you don't want, the dangerous drugs you don't want coming in. It's rat poison. You don't want any of these things. But they're going to help make it available because they pass these laws and subsidize so the chemical companies get bigger and we get sicker. So these chemicals are around. The pollution is absolutely been tested. You can watch this video anytime. Any of these sites at the bottom will bring you to these videos. But there's these other chemicals. Polybrominated diphenyl ether. That's the flame retardant. That's in every mammal on earth today. There isn't a dolphin. There isn't a whale. There's nothing. It's not loaded with PBDEs. Bisphenol A, which the FDA tried to say, we don't think it's toxic, has now been proven to be increasing asthma and to help with what Randy Jirtle, Jirtle at Duke University, described in Nova in the special 1 hour called Ghost in Your Genes, when you learn about the agouti mice and you learn about the epidemic of obesity and diabetes in our country, and you see how it is tied provably to a change that occurs overnight in your genes. And they're going to spend all this money. They say, hey, for $10,000 they can look at all your genes. Well, who cares? Because your genes, that doesn't tell you if your gene is turned on or turned off. That's epigenetic, and epigenetic is what you can do when you have positive thinking, when you do meditation, or you get in a pulsed magnetic field, or you use low-level microelectric current, or low-level laser. All the things I can teach you. So there's a great book, Genie in Your Genes, and there's an incredible book, Anti-Cancer, that can give you some background, because this is pretty depressing to sit and look at the fact that we have in everybody perfluorinated chemicals because we have non-stick cookware, and acrylamide, which is in carbohydrates, and methylmercury from eating fish and from fillings in our mouth, and then the gasoline additives. All of these are definitely now in our water supply and our food. So what happens is we have 100 different diseases, from lupus to multiple sclerosis, that are epidemic today, and diabetes type 1. These are when the body is actually attacking itself. Why would it attack itself? Because these chemicals build up in unique cells to such a level that the body doesn't think that that's your thyroid. So you have Hashimoto's disease. So now you have thyroid disease, and your doctor tells you you don't need thyroid, but he doesn't even do the test to see if you are actually killing your own thyroid with autoantibodies. In the same way, across the board, killing your own pancreas. And that's what's going on in that. So all of these tests are available, but they're not being done because it doesn't fit the 7-minute office visit. And it would require them realizing what this book is saying. This book is success stories. If you buy the book, it will help you see hope, because it is doctors who were facing death until somebody told them, you need to get off wheat, or you need to get off corn, or you need to get off dairy, or you have to get the lead or the mercury out. These are doctors who were so sick with this 100 lead. What are these diseases I'm talking about? Celiac disease. I'm talking about Graves' disease. That's thyroid. Guillain-Barré, Hashimoto's, juvenile arthritis, lupus, Meniere's disease, multiple. This sounds like what everybody has today. Scleroderma, rheumatoid. Everybody carries these diseases today. But we now can tease out of all of it what's really going on. So I took the book and I simply put together F.I.G.H.T. So when you go to Fight for Your Health, you can watch there a whole 1-hour lecture in which I explain zeolite. There is lots of information, and it's my job to empower you, because doctors who don't know about all this are going to put you down for wasting your time on the internet learning all this, but they're not right. We are right, and we have the documentation. Dr. Henshu is doing a great job of teaching people that we have an epidemic of chronic fatigue and an epidemic of obesity. And obviously, no one is doing anything like that. We can prove at the University of Wisconsin that most people with a lot of obesity have a viral infection. But that viral infection wouldn't be there if your immune system was working. And so we can give you immunity 2, we have immunity 3, we have immune support, but we have to go the next step. Why is your immune system not doing? Why are we getting these viral infections? We can kill them with the ACS. The Advanced Cellular Silver is your gift from the world, because now you don't have to have 100,000 people die this year in hospitals of hospital-acquired infections that they tell you are antibiotic resistant. They run up a huge bill. They give all the expensive drugs. It doesn't work and the patient dies. Silver would have changed that outcome. Just spraying the silver on an eye is enough to prevent deep infections in an animal, in a horse, in a human. A silver and zeolite spray are your first line of defense. If something's not healing, use the zeolite spray. And then learn to use the excellent aloe vera that Longevity Plus has. And we have to teach you how to put some vitamin A on the skin. Nutrisorb A, the one that allows you to do 3, 4, 5 days of high dose A that I do for people who get too many infections. That high dose for an adult weighing 200 pounds would be 500,000 units. That's 500,000. It's 50 drops of a unique vitamin A, but you put that on something on the skin that's not healing and alternate it with a little of the aloe vera called kerosene and alternate that with the zeolite, and then use the incredible Quinton marine plasma and put that in a sprayer, and you can help heal so many things and add vitamin C, and then there'll be some glutathione. But as we learn about these things, this picture of the child, that child is close to a carpet. That carpet, if you work anywhere around anything, is why that child is 6 times higher than you are. If you spend $4,900 taking 20 vials of blood from that child's arm and did it from your arm, the child will average 6 times more of all of these chemicals that we're teaching you about. But look at the picture on the bottom left and read what it says. Columbia University, that's a pretty advanced medical school, Columbia University Medical. This is a 2-year-old child. The child is there. And it says absolutely in this thing, it says the child was thought to be developing typically, but a couple of months later she was diagnosed with autism. I want you to know that they're now recommending that you do some videos of your baby and you watch for eye contact, because the earlier I get you to wake up about the idea that I would have you open a capsule of Essential Daily Defense and put it in the applesauce or the food of a baby that's only 2 months old, starting out with half a capsule the first couple of days. But the point is, we have to recognize that we are living, and this time on a poisoned planet, and based on complex things, one person gets the juvenile diabetes, and the next one gets the learning disorder, and the next one gets the cancer, and always there's a commonality. That's why the F.I.G.H.T is being talked about, and we will do in 2 weeks the hormones so that we have you understand better the good and the bad, because your PCBs and dioxins are hormone mimics. They make the body think there's estrogen there, so you can have a young girl at age 8 have fully developed sexual characteristics because you're getting the wrong hormone signal, which is why the H.R.T, herbal remedy from Thailand, because it actually safely cuts down the incidence of breast cancer. The lowest incidence of breast cancer in the world is in northern Thailand, where people eat the Pureria mirifica that we have standardized and put in the HRT formula, which you should be taking if you have any desire to reach your maximum intended useful lifespan. Because without some hormonal support, but we'll get into that more in 2 weeks, but we have to have this picture. Lead is there all the time, and we really need to have people realize it's not just the tenements anymore. It used to be that was where it was all about. So now we have a lot of children that are really extremely aggressive. And now they're using very, very toxic drugs, antipsychotics. When you read how toxic these drugs are, you will want to think, could you have avoided it had you listened to Dr. Gordon and started your apparently normal child on detoxification and have the ACZ spray and the ACS on any child that's having any problem in behavior, because toxins are behind these problems. And so we have to know that low-level lead is tied to ADHD, even the level. So whatever your doctor tells you, there is no safe level of lead published in mainstream lead. So don't let your doctor tell you, oh, lead's not the problem. Here, just take this handy-dandy prescription, and they put you on a one-way road to nowhere because they're doing damage, provable damage, which you will be stunned one day when you see how not only does it induce a coenzyme Q deficiency, so it should be illegal to give statins to anybody without giving coenzyme Q, but they are putting all these other drugs in people that are increasingly stressing an already poisoned body. So how to get the lead out? It's important to find out where's the lead coming from. So the kit on the bottom right hand is in your hardware store, and you touch anything with that stick, and if it turns another color, we've had people throw out what they've been cooking their food in for years, what they used to make their soup in, their favorite pot for making beans, the dishes they eat, the glasses that McDonald's was giving away free glasses, and they all tested very positive for lead. So it's obvious that we have to empower you to clean up your immediate environment. If you ever want to really understand the far-reaching in a gentle way, this book by Dolly Reuben Gilmore I highly recommend, because this book actually will teach you what we call orthomolecular psychiatry. Dr. Abraham Hoffer, MD, PhD, was the first one to find he could stop schizophrenics from hearing voices by using high-dose niacin, and this Dolly Reuben Gilmore worked with Dr. Abraham Hoffer for many, many years, and this book is well referenced. It is astonishing what you will learn about the fluoride in your water, the fluoride in the toothpaste, the mercury, the tooth. You will be quite astonished, and it is well referenced and extremely worthwhile having. And Longevity Plus offers the E3MV. This is a wafer that has in it the polyphenols. What are they? Well, that's what your child would have gotten if your child was eating fruits and vegetables instead of the food that we are all living on today, because they help fight back. Proven? Yes. 7-year history now at a elementary school in Leavenworth, and you go to Longevity Plus, and you go right down in Longevity Plus, you scroll down to children's formulas, and right there it lets you click on either PBS or Fox News, and you will have an astonishing knowledge to learn that the worst performing school in the entire state of Kansas within 2 years was the second best performing, because the children get one of these wafers when they come and when they go to school and when they go home. And it's just a part of the answer. And it would make any multiple that you're buying your child look like it was formulated by an idiot. There isn't a multiple out there that has been formulated with the knowledge that has gone in. There is not a child's formula that can compete with this, so I hope that you really look at it. Easy Defense is part of my approach to try to keep people a little bit away from the dentist chair, because it's so expensive. And we all know that we have these fillings in our mouth, and now we're learning that these fillings that are silver color are amalgam, and that's almost half mercury, and it never stops poisoning you. Even after 10 years, every filling, 15 years, you squeeze on a filling you take out. If you pull a tooth and you stick it on the table, and you take a rubber eraser on the end of a pencil, and you squeeze gently like you do when you eat your food, you can see the mercury gas coming off the tooth, even if it's been 20 years. Try to understand that's going directly into your sensitive part of your body. It is extremely close to your brain. So we designed Easy Defense so that everybody who doesn't have the money to pull all the mercury out of their mouth, which I'm not against, but we have to go at it slow. And if they go at it too fast, you'll get too sick. You should really be on my total program for 3, 4, 5 months before you even try to start taking the fillings out, because with this gum you can chew it after every meal, and you just chew it. It tastes very sweet. It's like a hard wafer. You bite into it, it becomes a really tasty. As long as it's tasty and juicy, keep on. Those juices are bathing your insides with good stuff like EDTA. When it's no longer tasty, just spit it out. and use this after every time you eat anything, because as we're saying with this seafood mercury warning, when you're chewing, you are releasing the mercury that is in the fillings in your mouth. And is what the joke here is, the baby shark is saying to the mama shark, why can't we eat humans anymore? She says, they've just got so much mercury in them, you better not touch them because you're going to get poisoned. So that's the sad story. Now, Mark Hyman has done a beautiful, beautiful job. And if you take the time to read these slides, you get 80% of the inhaled mercury goes and you absorb it. And if it's in your gut, the mercury that's in the fish you eat is going to go into your body. Now, I don't worry about that because I have hopefully got most of you trained to be on my program. Even if you're on Zeal Gold, one a day, I'm not going to worry that much, but I obviously prefer you to be on BCI twice a day because we need the omega-3, and the garlic in there is getting other things that we don't get with the zeolite, and plus we alter the thickness of your blood so you don't have a heart attack. So across the board, but this is so well written that I want you to know that we're going to be going to some good information here. Remember, you have friends who have shyness, abnormal laughing, abnormal crying. All of this is now being able to be, instead of some new drug from the drug company, we can teach people that the early shaking tremor ataxia, we can deal with these things. Michael J. Fox needs to be seeing a doctor trained by ACAM who can actually help them. But remember, there's a lot of stuff here that we go, it's kind of on the fact that we help people. I have people, when I chelate them, I had that lady with extensive 7 previous heart attacks, total inoperable, who after about the 8th chelation, she comes in and a 100-pound lady is picking me up. So we have people whose actually their leg was supposed to be absolutely amputated due to diabetic gangrene, and it gets warm again. We have people that we took out of nursing homes and people who were blind. But I don't know which of the patients I treat are going to fall into the lucky category that they see the dramatic benefit, but I guarantee you there isn't anyone who's doing any chelation of any kind that isn't being benefited, because you are all carrying these toxins and they are all altering the effectiveness of what you do while you're on this planet, and they're hastening the day that you leave the planet. So across the board, everything that is wrong with you will be less wrong if I can keep taking the stuff out. But remember, it's a 13 to 15-year problem, because if you only treat for 6.5 years, you'll only have 500 times too much lead in your bones. So we know that competent doctors are actually telling people with autistic children that there is no mercury in their kid. They're probably ignoring the fact that the kid has got extremely low levels of vitamin D. They're probably ignoring everything about the fact that the child has an abnormal bowel flora and needs to be on the silver to get rid of all the bad stuff that we all carry today inside of us. We need healthy bugs in our intestine to break our food down, but you can't get the healthy unless you first use enough silver, like a whole ounce to start, and then 25 sprays 2 and 3 times a day for a couple of months. But during that time, separately, at another time, you take a capsule of a good acidophilus, whether you use chionophilus or PB8 or any acidophilus. I have to then have the fiber inside of you to give the acidophilus something to eat. But it's so sad. A well-meaning doctor here is telling the parents that you just go ahead and do psychological support and do that, and the child would do much better with all the training if we would first take the toxins out, because this is the mercury that we get out when we address the need to get off the dairy and the wheat and put the child on something to deal with the infection. All of a sudden, when that doctor didn't see any mercury, he said, oh, forget it, I can't help you, take your child elsewhere. He missed the opportunity. But this book is going to empower all of you listening today. This book is free of charge. You just take that website and you're going to have in your hands this incredible document that is 155 pages, and you're going to have many of these articles are 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 references. They're by people that I dearly adore, like Mark Houston, who's the head of hypertension research at Vanderbilt in Nashville. This guy is a walking encyclopedia, and he is listed there are 173 references that explain to you about how mercury and cadmium are all tied into why your loved ones have hypertensive blood vessel disease, coronary artery disease, heart attack. This goes on chapter after chapter, and there's no cost to you. I cannot believe that they have made this possible to know about all the bad estrogens that are out there and how they tie to the breast cancer. There's a big article in the New York Times yesterday. So many women today are opting when they have a little pre-cancer lesion in one breast to have both breasts removed because they're not learning any of this. The article in this pages is about chemoprotection against cancer, but the article that is in here by Dr. Hyman is so important about obesity, because we can help people by detoxing. We can help people by getting in a good supplement. Across the board, we can change people's lives, but it's all tied together. So this is the article by Mark Houston, and I repeat, the entire proceedings, 155 pages, you can just read it at your leisure or download it. And now you'll be able to help educate. You see, the practice of medicine, we have to admit, we call it the practice because we're never perfect. It is always major changes every day. And it's what you teach the doctor when you go in and you say, Doc, I think I got a book I want to share with you. Because your doctor has told you there was nothing else to be done for your brain tumor or for your child who couldn't learn or was so aggressive they couldn't take to regular school. Their doctor didn't know these answers. So we have to have you, as part of the practice of medicine, in a non-aggressive manner, say, doctor, you know, there's been some new information, because the people you'll be quoting here are Johns Hopkins, they're Harvard. You'll be quoting heads of medical schools. So even though your doctor isn't familiar with the fact that mercury contributes to the inflammation, as does the wrong diet, and you've got to be on the omega-3, and contributes to the blood clot that causes you to have the stroke and the heart attack, and contributes to your immune system not handling all these infections. So I have to keep you on the silver for quite a while to get you well enough to bring these viral loads, because everybody today has Coxsackie or HHV6 or chlamydia, or they have some candida. Everybody today has some of these infections, mycoplasma. It's pretty frightening. And the mitochondria don't work well. And when the mitochondria don't work well, you don't have the energy to do what you want to do. So these are the consequences to your blood vessels of having mercury. And it's coronary heart disease, heart attacks, the carotid. So you're not going to learn this from anybody else. It's so sad. They just, there's so much money in operating on your heart and putting a stent in and get you on the way and doing a bypass and trying to buy it. This is so sad. They don't do anything about teaching you that we can lower your pressure naturally. We can lower the thickness of the blood. We can change all of these factors with the F.I.G.H.T program, but there's no money in the doctor taking the time. It's much more fruitful to his income to do something surgical and invasive. And we have really burned so much coal that mercury is in every leaf on the 10,000-foot Mount Washington. There isn't a bird that's not loaded with mercury, and the leaves of the plants are coated with the particulate matter that blows in all the way from China. And provably 30% of the mercury in your body, if you live in San Francisco, was absolutely proven by radioisotope testing to be the mercury from burning of coal in China. So the more mercury we have from our dental fillings, the more fish we eat, and the more we are breathing this bad air. It's just astonishing. So when you have all these things, and it's so sad because there's so many people, they have, suddenly their back goes out. Well, the back goes out, why? They have inflammation, and they have tissues. I mean, it's like President Clinton walking down the steps in the White House. His knee goes out because he's been living on Big Macs. And he doesn't look very well. The heart surgery isn't helping him. And they absolutely really, he needs this program, but somebody has to tell him because he's not learning anything about what he needs. So mercury, how to get it out of your body. This is why I love everything that Mark Hyman does so well, because he does a great job of telling you you're being poisoned, but telling you there's a way out of it. So we don't want to always be all negative. And we know that everybody with autoimmune, and I repeat, that's over 100 diseases, there isn't a case of eczema, there's not a case of psoriasis that we can't absolutely cure. There isn't anything. But the problem is you have to have the guts to take some intravenous calcium EDT and follow with some intravenous magnesium and do some high-dose vitamin C and do some glutathione and get into the total. But you'll be spending money because there isn't any insurance company that wants to help. And certainly Medicare is not going to touch anything like this. They are really happy with just pushing some more drugs, no matter what they cause and how little they extend lifespan. So we now have a chapter in this book, which is on my website. There's so much on my website. If you'll watch the webinars, if you'll go to the Fight for Health and try to understand Zeo Gold, there has not been anything ever available. If you go to the website called zeoliteanswer.com, you'll see an awful lot of information. We have animals, we have entire farms that wouldn't run without the zeolite because they don't have malformed fetuses, they don't have dead baby chickens, they don't have dead baby piglets, so it changes everything. But you have to learn about it, and you have to take one a day, and then if you want to learn what we do in overseas in Europe, we treat lots of cancers by going to more aggressive levels because of what it does to the immune system. And that's why this unique zeolite has 20 times the surface area of anything that's ever been available before. We all are going to need vitamin D. Fiber is part of what's going to feed the good bacteria in your intestine. Essential daily defense is what you can give to babies. If you open the capsule, it's just the garlic and some of the EDTA and some useful nutrient, but we all have to be detoxing at some level. Of course, the easiest way with babies is the ACZ. The liquid spray zeolite is your first line of defense, but when you use it, use a little of the silver, because the silver will lower the total body burden of pathogens and help reduce the amount of low birth weight children. Now, this is a complicated issue, but I'm trying to tell you, it's clear that we have these infections and these food sensitivities and these genetic issues, so you need to be on the sublingual beyond B12, and we have the toxins that we're going to teach you more about in 2 weeks. BCI is still the best bargain on the planet, and we need to know that all of us need that. It's a lifetime challenge. The books that I've written include the Omega-3 Miracle. It's in every bookstore. And the BCI is still my calling card. And these websites, Fight for Your Health, are places that you can go and go to Linda, the bottom one in the right-hand corner, linebook.com/fight, and you can type in and say, hey, I'm lost. Dr. Gordon talked too fast. And you'll have other people that will pick up and form email conversations with you, like the Zeolite Answer site, where you'll learn so much about zeolite, and my Fight for Your Health. We're putting more and more of the information I send out to doctors. And remember, you can invite your doctor to join F.I.G.H.T. There's no charge. And once they join F.I.G.H.T, they get a password, and they can review what 2,300 other health professionals have said about how to treat virtually every disease. And so I have some questions, and I would like to see, can I talk about evening primrose? Isn't borage better? There is a good fight between borage and evening primrose, and some people are going to prefer one over the other. I have been very happy, and my friend, Dr. David Orban, MD, PhD, is the world's top expert on omega-6, and I was quite taken with the good results that I get. So although borage has a good story behind it, unfortunately, I now have behind me way over 20 years of not a single reported fatal heart attack or stroke in anybody taking BCI. So even if borage came out with a big report tomorrow, I would be hard to change when you have something that is keeping people from being in the emergency room. They're not having heart attacks and not having strokes. I just bought ACS and ACZ. Should I take them both 3 minutes apart, or is there a recommended time? Here's the difficulty. Let me explain. If you read every paper, you'd find that if you could take your calcium half an hour or 10 minutes or 15 minutes apart from your magnesium, they would work better. Same with your zinc and the copper. As soon as I make it too complicated, then we stop doing anything. So I have to tell you, real simple. We have documentation that zeolite can actually work with silver. So for my body, I don't even bother to separate them, although on a technical basis, I would like to say that if it wasn't that my time is so pressed, I would normally think it would make good sense for me to take my acidophilus, which I take every single day, at least preferably half an hour or more apart from the silver, because the silver is actually going to kill healthy, beneficial bacteria, because it's got to get rid of the fungus and bacteria, and it's got to get rid of all the virus in your body. So yes, some things need to be separated, but I got to confess, because I am feeling so well, I might be losing 50% of the benefit. But if I put it down and I think I'm going to get back to it 10 minutes later to take my acidophilus 10 minutes after my silver, I'm afraid I don't get it done, so I settled for the compromise, and I tend to take a lot of my things together. It has been my exciting opportunity today to share with you, I repeat, managing the metabolic detoxification. If you download that, you will be able to invite your doctor to become a detoxification doctor by joining F.I.G.H.T. You can empower yourself to change your life, and whatever you do, I'm Dr. Gordon. I'm here trying to make sure that you reach your maximum intended useful lifespan, enjoying the optimal health that at age 75 I'm starting to enjoy that I didn't have for the first 30 years. And thank you, and we'll be with you in 2 weeks. Goodbye now.
Thank you, Dr. Gordon. The products that Dr. Gordon has formulated are available through Longevity Plus. Please call 800-580-7587 to place your order.